Hey guys, today we're going to read our Edgar Allan Poe story. On Monday, you should have watched or read an article on ReadWorks about him. And then yesterday, you should have watched the video about mood on YouTube and taken a little 4-question quiz. If you haven't already done that, do that first so you kind of know what we're doing here. This is going to be a creepy story. If we were at school, we would be spending a whole week on some of Edgar Allan Poe's stories. But for today, I've got my daughter and my husband here to help me. Normally in class, we would split up the parts and it would be really, really fun. So we're going to do the best we can with just 3 of us, all right? For the first page, let me go through the characters real quick. We have 3 narrators. They're ravens. Ravens are big, creepy black birds. And Edgar Allan Poe actually wrote a poem called The Raven. It was probably his most famous thing that he ever wrote. So that's why the ravens are the narrators. And then we have a villain, the bad guy. We have an old man. We have a heart. We have an officer, a sergeant, and a constable. They're all just kind of police, okay? So, scene 1. Here we go. Caw, caw, caw! Long before zombie movies and vampires on TV. Back in the days of carriages and candlelight, the master of scary stories was a man named Edgar Allan Poe. Poe wrote about murder and morgues, about ghosts and graveyards. And in this tale, about a man who has lost his mind.
What? I'm not crazy. You may think I am, but I am not.
And so the tale begins. It starts with the old man, who shares an apartment with our villain.
Yes, that's right, the old man.
Would you please bring me some tea?
Of course, I'll be right back with the morning paper, too.
Thank you very much. You do not look well today. Didn't you get any sleep last night?
I am fine, old man.
You seem to have a headache. Let me get and fix you something.
No, you just enjoy your tea.
Such a kind-hearted old man.
True enough, the old man had never done me harm, but he had this one sickly eye. It was like the eye of a vulture. Whenever it looked at me, my blood ran cold. So slowly, over time, I made up my mind to kill him.
He made up his mind.
I was not crazy. It was his evil eye. It haunted me. It drove me out of the room. I had to get rid of that evil eye.
Scene 2.
I began the task. Night after night, I crept into the old man's room.
He shone a light upon the eye.
But every night the eye was closed, so I waited. After all, it was not the old man who bothered me, but his eye.
The evil eye.
On the 8th night, I crept into the old man's room and heard him sit up in bed.
He cried out.
It was a groan of terror, a low, slow sound from the bottom of his soul.
Who's there?
I remained still. For hours, I stood without moving, barely breathing. And then I shone my light, a single beam, upon the eye.
It was open!
Wide open! And it made me furious to look at it. It chilled me to the bone.
The vulture's eye.
And then I heard it.
He heard the beating of the old man's heart.
Thump, 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 thump.
Faster and faster and faster.
Louder and louder and louder.
Thump, 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 thump.
It increased my fury. I could stand it no longer. I leaped.
Ah!
I was happy that I had done it. But for many minutes, the old man's heart beat on.
Bum, 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 bum.
When it finally stopped, I examined the body. The old man was dead. Stone dead.
It was over. The heart was still. The eye was closed forever.
The eye would never bother me again.
Okay, I'm going to pause for a minute. So we have our villain who killed the old man because he had some creepy eye. A little bit crazy. Okay, scene 3. An hour later, there came a knock at the door. Bang, bang, bang. It was the police. There has been a complaint. Your neighbors, they called. A scream was heard. Like this. Ah! Yes. Ah! Ah! Or at least, that's what your neighbors were saying. Suspicious, don't you think?
Yes, a scream of terror. That was me. I was having a dream.
Or a nightmare. May we come in? Look around. Investigate. Scene 4. The villain invited them in.
That's right. I invited them in. I wasn't worried because I'd carefully hidden the body of the old man underneath the floorboards. No human eye could have found anything wrong. There was no stain, no blood. I had been too clever for that.
Who else lives here with you, sir? Yes, with whom do you live? And why isn't he here?
The old man. He is, away. You see, there's his room. His bed is made. His belongings are in place.
Is something wrong? You seem to have a headache. You should sit down.
Yes, a fine idea. Perhaps you would join me for a cup of tea.
A cup of tea? That would be lovely. Yes, a cup of tea. The villain served them tea.
Of course I did. For what did I have to fear? I served them tea above the very spot where I had hidden the old man's body.
Ah, this is fine tea. They say green tea is good for you too. Yes, I've heard that.
The officers chatted. I had fooled them well. Could a crazy man have done that?
Scene 5. But soon our villain began to wish that they were gone.
I grew pale. Why wouldn't they leave?
Lots of strange things happening these days. Oh, that's true. People acting oddly. Like there's something in the air.
Then I heard a ringing sound in my ears.
A muffled, buzzing sound.
Buzz, buzz, buzz.
I must have looked very, very pale. I raised my voice, but they kept talking.
The countryside is nice this time of year. Yes, peaceful, I'd say. What with the fall colors and all.
The buzzing grew louder until I realized it wasn't buzzing at all, but a ticking sound.
Like that of a watch, or a clock, or a time bomb.
Tick, 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 tick.
I walked back and forth. I grabbed my head, but they kept talking as if nothing was wrong.
A walk in the woods, why, it clears the mind. Much like this tea. Yes, it's good for the soul.
The noise grew louder, and then I knew what it was.
Thump, thump.
Louder, louder, louder!
Couldn't they hear it? I pounded my feet across the floor. I hissed. I waved my arms.
Thump, 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 thump.
Then I realized what must be happening. They knew. They were making fun of me with their innocent smiles and sips of tea.
Oh, the pain! The torture!
Thump, 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 thump.
Well, it seems that everything is fine here. We really should be getting back to the police station. Thank you for the tea, young man.
Louder, louder still. I could stand it no longer.
He could stand it no longer!
Thump, 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 thump.
Villains! Monsters! I did it! I confess! Tear up the floor! Here! Here! It is the beating of the old man's terrible heart!
Epilogue.
That's right. I did it. I won't tell you what happened next. Nor will I tell you what's about to happen now, if you don't stop staring at me with your vulture eyes.